Welcome back to Hazardous Endeavors.
Woo! Yeah. All right.
Yes, indeed. The actual play D&D 5th edition podcast brought to you by Digital and Dice Season 3. And I am your host, Mark. I am your DM, and joining me today are my players. We have Elliot Frostmoon.
Hello, hello.
We have Lindo Espina, the beautiful Thorn.
I like that you said the whole name.
Every time I can manage it.
Every time.
We have Wilf Tradewind.
I mean, and you never say my full name.
No. And Jackson Shaw.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, that is who you are. And where we last left our intrepid adventurers, you are in the Lindo dreamscape. You are somewhere in Lindo Espina's subconscious. At the moment, you are traveling around with a vision of Lindo, a heroic, proud...
All Lindos are visions of Lindo.
Well...
Gleam.
Yes, this one in particular seems to be very heroic and a vision of Lindo that seems confident and powerful and very comfortable in himself, but not, again, the veneer you remember. And Elliot has rejoined you as he was the one who cast the ritual that allowed you to jump into Lindo's mindscape. But where you had just dealt with what seemed to be a large drunken statue of Lindo's father, you are now making your way into a wooded clearing where you see the large theater troupe that has set up its wagons in a bit of a half circle, and you see the people standing on stage reading poetry and give small soliloquies as they entertain the townies in front of them. And as you make your way into the clearing, the people, they wave hello and greet you and welcome you to the their little impromptu theater.
I use my performance skill to judge their soliloquies.
Go ahead.
15.
So the soliloquies seem a little wooden, a little bit not quite professional quality.
How now, brown cow?
But what you notice and what you remember just from the time that you have spent doing something similar is you recognize that the things that they're doing, the particular sonnets that they're recalling and all these things are designed to bring their attention to the person on stage instead of the kind that you might listen to and kind of stare at your lover while remembering times of yore. These are ones that draw their attention forward and away from, people with sticky fingers who happen to be making their way through the crowd.
Oh, you should have said they're a theater troupe.
Yes. And as you kind of
That's what
realize
they
that,
troupe a theater.
you start noting little inconsistencies, and the rest of you are actually starting to see this as well. And it becomes more and more apparent that the people who are sitting there in the chairs, they're starting to, you note that as they're kind of clutching their cloaks and their coats a little closer, you note that they seem to have a little bit more wool on the outside. They seem to kind of be shivering a little bit, and they're huddling closer to one another as circling around them are some of these actors who are smiling with teeth, far too many teeth in their mouths, as they're seem to be circling around these shivering, wool-covered people as they're being entertained, but are now starting to worry. But they're too entertained by the thing happening on stage for them to worry too much about the large-teethed actors who are circling around the back of them. You now notice dripping slobber out of the corners of their mouth. And beyond them, while this is happening, you see behind one of the wagons, you see a couple people standing around having a discussion. And one of them, you note, is standing there in kind of a greenish-brown tunic, nice pants but not exceptionally well-tailored, and hair in a small, little ponytail, not quite long enough, a little bit of 5 o'clock shadow, not quite a goatee.
Lin-Manuel Miranda?
Yes. As you see this person, kind of frail, definitely reminds you of the young lad you saw previously. You see him talking with a couple of these slavering, jawed creatures as they coax him to follow them, and you see him kind of think for a moment. He like looks around unsure,
Elliot,
and then
Elliot,
with a sad
Elliot.
look, almost like a
Yes.
just
There I
gets
go.
it.
There I go.
He
you.
nods and follows through.
You have to play the game, right? You
Lindo?
have to save the tiny Edwins, okay? Save the
Lindo?
tiny Edwins.
Lindo,
Kid, don't do it!
why is the troop preying on?
So I was a little loose
them.
with the terms. Theater, troop, thieves. It's same thing. Give or take.
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily the same thing.
I tried. I really did. The point is that this was a turning point in Lindo's life. You see, I could not be a hero. I could not be smart. I could not outwit anybody. So,
You were a criminal?
why not?
I mean,
It paid the bill and I wasn't starving.
So this is how you learn to do the Lindo stuff. Stab extra good. Hide extra good.
Freak out extra good. Use a Lindo voice. I have many voices. This is just one of them. This is my favorite one.
oh, right. But, I mean, this is laying on the metaphor a little thick here.
What metaphor?
The people, your troop are turning into wolves. The people in the middle, the ones they're preying on, they're one step from bleeding like sheep.
They start bleeding like sheep.
What?
Is this where you tried to fully?
I don't get it.
Is this where you tried to fully divest yourself of Edwin?
You guys are using a lot of really big words, so I'm just going to run in there and save the people, okay? Goodbye!
Right.
Ha-ha! And I jump in.
So
Let's head in there.
Lindo starts rushing in, seeing if there's a, he starts following where the young man was led off to. And as you all start to follow around, you start hearing behind you, certainly, again, the almost bleating of sheep, as well as the snarling of what sound like wolves. And you go rushing forward to see if you can find the source of what's happening beyond. So you start following where the heroic Lindo has run off.
Da-da-da!
You make your way back between a few of the wagons, and you see a trail leading down further into the woods. And immediately, as this trail goes in there, you note that the woods themselves look darker, more malevolent. The trees themselves seem to have twisted branches, thorns covering various bits of their trunks. The foliage itself
Trunks.
looks dead and dying. And as you follow where Lindo is courageously running,
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
once again the sound of an orchestra playing slightly in the background at the edge of hearing.
Well, hi diddly dee, an actor's life for me.
As
Can't wait to be out of here.
Oh, I have a feeling it's only going to get worse.
I would like to
That's the
slide
problem.
into view of everybody.
Okay, so Lindo disappears around a bend, and as you make your way over, you note him kind of sliding down an embankment, his cloak billowing behind him, as his boots just kicking up just enough dust behind him to frame him perfectly against what light there is coming down from the canopy.
Ha-ha!
And
I am here to save you!
you note that ahead of you is, in the darkness of the forest, you start seeing the outline of a building ahead of you. You make your way out into this clearing, and you see this massive old theater building. Very obviously what might have been an indoor theater at one point, but the walls have crumbled away. All that is left is the backdrop and the stage. Old, ratty velvet curtains hanging by threadbare. Just the whole thing looks rotted and old. And you see this young man, looking vaguely reminiscent of a friend, standing in the middle of a circle. He looks despondent and lost, and around him there are these slavering, wolfish-looking actors who are now wearing these kind of dark robes. You see various bits of leather armor. You know, it vaguely resembles what you've seen, Wilf specifically, from the time that you spent in the Assassin's Guild. You recognize some of the trappings as they're talking, and you note that they're going on and they're speaking in lilted tones, and they're trying to calm him, but at the same time as they're acting, they're using thieves' cant to talk to one another about how we're going to mold him, we're going to change him, we'll show him what he's worth. We'll use him to do what we need him to do, and then we'll send him off with the others. He's nothing to us. He's just a moldable piece of clay that has lost his way. And they're saying this at the same time as they're praising him from their lips, and their hands are telling a different story.
I think we should intercede now.
It would be a very good idea. I am going to be very sad momentarily.
As you start to make your way forward, Elliot, what were you doing?
I was gonna say I don't have any idea what's going on because I can't read Thieves' Cat. So
That's fair. But they seem to be getting riled up, or at least heroic Lindo just seems to be like, oh, this is normal, but let's deal with this. Wilf is getting more and more upset. Jackson
Yeah.
just seems kind of normal, as upset as normal.
As upset as normal.
But as
Slightly
you
scowly.
take a step forward, suddenly there's this beaming of light as they have turned these lanterns with reflective backs down as spotlights on your group.
Oh, ass butt.
And another set of them goes down on the young man in the circle as you hear an announcer's voice echoing from around. You can't tell where it's coming from. You say, "Here he is. Yes, our newest recruit. Watch how we change him. Watch how we show him his worth. Watch as we turn him into what he truly is." As the young man in the center of the circle falls to his knees, looking sad and dejected, and as he starts to sob in the middle of the circle, you note that his back starts to arch a little bit more. You start hearing clicking and popping from his back and his arms as they start to distend slightly. You note his fingers are growing longer into sharp claws. As he starts to stand up, you note he's towering above you now, at least 13 foot tall, spindly arms. From his chest, as he starts to manically grasp and pull, he actually reaches in, and you see him pulling something out from his chest. And you note that at first it looks like he's pulling like a person, but you see that it's almost the size of Wilf, is this statue of a woman, and just almost in a praying gesture as it grabs it, and then you note the rest of the hilt as it drags a massive twisted looking sword out of its chest. And you notice he looking at it, and looking at what you can see from its eyes, it's looking down at it as if this is its only friend in the world. A single tear dropping from one eye as it looks down the blade, as admiring it, still dripping from the blood of his chest. And as he turns, and you note that the clothing he was wearing before is now mismatched finery, things that look like you would stitch together from a costumer's guild, as the different clothing and the colors, polka dot stripes, everything mismatched together in a patchwork overcoat, as the creature then bends down and brandishes the rapier, and it looks out at you, and you can see just the last vestiges of light flickering in its eyes.
I know what you're thinking. And yes, puberty was very hard for me.
And
Did
with
you
that,
pull a Rosa out of your chest cavity?
Well, I mean, here I did.
and with that, it lets out a scream of anger and rage and sadness, and we roll initiative.
We should save the damsel!
the damsel is you.
Eh? Aw, the damsel's La Rosa, right?
It's you.
I mean, it is you.
Elliot,
15.
Lindo,
20.
Wilf,
18.
Jackson.
6.
The
That is
world
a-
has restored itself to order.
Good, solid number. Jackson comes in the end and kills everything.
Okay, so starting us off with Lindo, then Wilf, then Elliot, then Jackson. So, Lindo, it is your turn. This demonic form, resembling you only in the slightest, is standing there, and it's crying, and it looks just like everything around it has just crushed it, and it is now trying to break free. What do you do?
Do not worry, ugly Edwin. I will save you by stabbing you several times through the heart. And I jump up onto the stage. I flip off my hat because now I'm just going to let my hair fly because, it seems like a really good idea at the time.
Lindo leaps up on stage and he tosses his hat. His hat whips through the air and just happens to hang on a low-hanging branch, swinging back and forth. And the moment that he does that and his feet land on the stage, again, that orchestra in the background starts as he brandishes La Rosa and the stranger.
18.
Yeah, so you make your way forward and you stab into this thing. As you do so, it sweeps La Rosa down in an attempt to parry it. But as it does so, the woman in the hilt of the larger kind of demonic sword actually screeches out in pain as the sword comes down, and it actually rears away from it, leaving the opening that you used to stab it.
Ha! I will save you, La Rosa! 11. Plus 4.
Okay.
Plus 4.
18, 19.
Plus 6. Yes.
So 25 points of damage. All right. So yeah, you leap forward and you stab La Rosa into it, and it screeches out, and the rest of you are hearing what sounds like a heavily distorted Lindo screaming in pain and sadness.
I go to swing my other sword, but I get too close to the Rosa face, and I pull back because I rolled a 5.
Wilf.
Lindo, I need you to totally believe that I can do some amazing acrobatics right now.
I use my brain because I do, and I think about it very hard.
I try to run and flip up onto the stage, drawing my swords.
Okay. Go for it.
Acrobatics.
Go for it.
Oh, well, that's a 27.
So you run up, you do a standing leap, you flip, you land, and as you do so, you start hearing, accompanying the other music, a piccolo.
Nice.
A piccolo?
Well, you're very tiny. You are very tiny.
I make
Hot kettle?
a couple of attacks at yon big
Okay.
monster thingy.
Roll it.
First attack is only a... it's only a 12.
A 12 misses.
My second attack with my main hand.
Okay.
Haha! A 19.
That'll hit.
I'm gonna go ahead and call this a defensive flourish, because I like me.
Okay.
It's a flourish.
Defensive flourish. Ooh. Okay. That, my good friend, is 16 damage, and I have plus 8 to my AC for the turn.
Okay.
And then I attack with my offhand.
All right. Go for it.
And that is a 20 much. Sorry, brain. That is a 23.
Okay, that will absolutely hit.
All right. I like having dual wield specialization. That is 10 damage.
10 damage. Okay. So you stab into it, and again, you hear the screech and of pain from it that you've heard before, but normally a lot quieter and not quite as demonic.
Weird. It's weird.
It's not that bad, right?
It's weird. No, it's that
It's
bad.
very weird.
As the rapier in its hand kind of whips around, and as it does so, you can almost hear the sound of the handle crying. Just the sound of it just shrieking as it comes through the air.
As my rapier gently weaves.
As it swings down, Wilf, that is a 19 to hit you. I'm assuming that misses.
Ooh, I've got a 26 right now.
So one of them swings down and it whiff, misses. And then he looks up, and this kind of flurry of motion that almost like the clothing itself seems to burst apart, and it seems to like go away for a moment around you like a flock of birds, and it coalesces down, standing over Elliot, and you hear it scream out at you incoherently. It's just this sorrow overwhelming you. Please make me a wisdom save.
Oh, okay.
You can do it.
That's one of my saves.
Are you still standing next to Jackson?
Jackson has not gone yet, so yes.
Advantage.
Oh, advantage.
Yep.
Woo!
And I haven't changed that, so it's a little bit better.
Nice.
20?
A 20.
1.
So this crushing sense of sorrow seems to wash over you, and thanks to the light of Jackson standing nearby, you seem to just push it away just enough so that it doesn't affect you.
And at last he saw the light.
And as it goes over and it notes that it doesn't seem to have hurt you, La Rosa spins up and it comes down and attempting to stab it into you. Yeah, that's a 27. So
27. Yeah, that'll hit me.
Okay. That is 16 points of piercing damage.
Good.
Okay.
It shatters my ice shield.
Okay, so as the sword comes down, it skips off of the ice shield as the arcane energy just shatters off of you, and the sword jams into the ground almost a foot as it yanks it back out and looks around, and then takes a swing at Jackson. Tries to stab it into him.
That's invisible.
But no, that's a 15. That won't hit you.
Yeah, not so much.
So back there we go to Elliot.
Lindo Espina, the beautiful thorn. Lindo Espina, the beautiful thorn.
Either
I
one
suggest
works.
you drop it. As I cast suggestion for them to drop the sword.
Okay. That is a 17.
It makes it.
What about you?
I dropped the sword.
Yeah, so you say that, the big one kind of tightens the grip on it, and that Lindo goes, oh, and you hear clang as the swords get dropped out of that Lindo's hands.
You gotta be kidding me.
Call it Edwin! Call it Edwin!
Shrugs.
Who's Edwin?
Jackson?
You poor soul. You've been influenced far too long by these miscreants. It's time for you to be put to rest.
What am I, the dog that went to the farm?
Yeah, that's a 24.
That'll hit.
And I'm going to do a first level.
Okay. It is a fiend. The odd kind of demonic looking things growing out of it seem to have grown into this kind of odd inner demon.
All right.
It's all right, Linda. We're going to send this Edwin to a nice farm where he can play around with all the other Edwins.
You know, that sounds very nice. I'm not going to lie.
That is going to be 18.
18 points.
Legal.
Hold on. My apologies.
Oh, yeah.
Sword of the Dawn Guard.
Yep, Sword of the Dawn Guard, couple more.
dang.
Oh, yeah.
Was it happy?
That's a 35. Excuse me.
35 points of damage. Okay. So your sword blazes up with brilliant light. It's almost as if it grows just a little bit longer, almost a great sword length as you're holding it. And you slam it down and you hack right into the kind of demonic Lindo's form. And you note that as it does so, some of the various cloth and such actually burns away and it shrieks out. And it just, again, it's when it does so, it's almost like it's crying out in pain and anguish. Do you have another attack?
I do.
Okay.
Of course you do.
It's only a 22.
And that will still hit. And then
Only
you're
at 22,
Mr.
Yep.
Smite Pants again. Okay.
Might as well smite it again.
Snickety
let's
snackety
see.
roll for attackety.
Indeed. That's 6, 12, 15, 17, 20, 28.
Okay, so
Only a 28? Jeez, Jackson, why are you such a slacker?
so with another swing of your sword as it's screeching out, you just slam your sword directly into its midsection. As it does so, the open part of its chest where its heart should be flares out with this brilliant energy. And it's almost like you're cooking it from the inside with holy fire. And
That's disturbing.
It screams out, flames licking out of its eyes and mouth, cavity in its chest, various other wounds you guys have made on it just over the past several seconds. As it falls to its knees, you notice it's starting to shrink as the fire seems to be burning away the kind of eclectic clothing that's garbing it. And within a few moments, you're looking at the sobbing, arched, pained form that you saw before, the young man in the tunic. And he kind of gets up on all fours, gets to a kneeling position, breathing heavily, looking around with just unfocused eyes. Seems to notice for the first time of the people still moving around as if they're hunting. He seems to notice them for the first time, gets a wild look in his eye, looks through you but not at you, almost just like he can't tell that you're there. Briefly seems to look at that Lindo, get a curious look on his face, stand, and then run off into the darkness, pushing his way past several of the cloaked figures that snarl as he passes but don't stop him.
I nod with satisfaction and also give that Edwin finger guns. Yeah. Papow.
This isn't going to get old. Not at all.
Shortly after runs away, the other cloaked figures just start backing away into the darkness, snarling, but you can hear the promise of their words. You can hear them saying, "Come with us, do this, become one of us," as they slowly disappear back into the darkness surrounding you.
What a bunch of phallics.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know what that means, but yes. I'm sure it was very insulting.
Yeah.
I was implying that they were genitalia.
Yes, particularly male ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. Take that, you
is anyone else
genitalia.
getting the thought that Edwin and Lindo here are going to need to reconcile before this is all over?
I think so. By the way, Elliot, just so you know, Lindo is Edwin. Edwin is Lindo. Edwin turned into Lindo. That's how we have a Lindo.
I see.
Edwin was my younger self. My true self. I don't know.
Jackson, did you just notice that Elliot responded with icy?
Ha,
Yeah.
ha, 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 ha.
I just thought I need to point that out. This might be a dream.
I have
but
not
that was pointed
used
out.
any of my third level spells, Mr. Wilf, just to remind you.
Sure enough, off to the other side of the clearing, as the rotting old velvet curtains are pulled aside, you note another dark passageway leading off into the
You know what
nothingness.
this means, right, guys? Guys,
We have to dash into the darkness.
we gotta dash into the darkness. Yes. Yes.
I'm going to
Are you going to
meander
use epic music
through
to
the
do it?
darkness.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
As it starts to pick up and the music starts to go along with you as you...
This would be
Looking
cool if
at
we had-
Jackson, I roll my eyes and continue forward at a meandering pace.
Yep.
This would have been.
There's
cool
the
if
oboe
we
in the
had
background that goes
lines
wop,
to
wop,
swing
wop,
from.
wop, 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 wop.
And you guys start running, getting off into the distance there. And as you start, again, losing that feeling of having a self, having a physical body, within a few moments, you start feeling, again, the sound, the feeling of your boots crunching down on gravel. You smell the air as it's wafting in. It has a distinct tang to it of rot in the distance, of arid soil, of dust. And as you're crunching through the area that you're entering into, you start gaining the sight off in the distance, the dark, storm cloud-filled skies. Ahead of you, what looks to be a stone bastion on the edges of landscape that looks like it once might have been clean and pure, but now seems to be just churned and desecrated. You see the area ahead of you, the massive structure. It looked familiar for a moment, although it looks to have been overrun. You see this castle. Jackson, you specifically recognize it as you're pretty sure you've been here before. As a matter of fact, all of you.
Oh no!
And as you're starting to make your way through, you note the gates have been blasted down. You step your way in, and the area inside looks like just a charnel pit. You see people in armor. You see laying on the ground as if there was a massive battle here. All of them defending outwards. All of them standing at one point at the ready to defend something towards the center of what is now just a ring of bodies. Something has attacked its way in and taken whatever was in the middle. And as you start to make your way through the bodies, some vaguely looking like you recognize them, but not quite. Something off about them. Some of their facial features just a little fuzzy. And as you step forward, you look down, and in the center of this massive ring, you see a woman, the body of a woman. You see a young girl. You see Emma Watchfield lying dead on the ground. You see her clutching where the amulet around her neck used to be, the broken chain still hanging limply where she tore it off of herself to save Lindo. You look around, and you can hear in the distance, you can hear clanging. You hear the sounds of weaponry clanging against armor, against shield, echoing over the walls. And that's when you hear this kind of low rumbling happening from what sounds like the eastern ramparts.
I think we should hustle our way there.
I guess we should.
Probably a good idea.
You start making your way over. You note that the ground around where Emma's body was looks like almost undisturbed except for a single set of footprints. The footprints seem to lead off in the direction you're heading. And as you make your way around the keep itself and you make your way up the stairs onto the ruined ramparts, you look over and you see two figures sitting on the wall. Looking out over the landscape ahead of you, you see a battle raging. You see flashing light, radiant light, being wielded like a master against what looks to be an army of these demonic creatures, twisted forms that look almost like Lindo, but just a little twisted here and there. Massive jaws, canines, horns, everything that looks like various things you have fought over the years, but all of them looking like they have the face of Lindo in this massive field, fighting towering forms, powerful armor-clad forms, swinging massive hammers. And as you notice this, the figure sitting up on the wall, you note is a much more familiar face, a Lindo that looks very much like the one that's laying down in the bed. And he's sitting there, and next to him is a large-shouldered figure, and it's sitting there with its legs dangling over the edge, and it looks over the head of Lindo at the group, and a big, toothy smile comes up, and you hear the voice, "It's okay, Lindo. Your friend here. They're here for you."
Lindo just kind of nods gently and puts a hand on Zugtug's thigh, patting it gently.
Are you there, big guy?
Our fight almost done. They take it from here.
Well, that's good. I am tired.
Yeah.
It's good to see you again, old friend.
Yeah. Again, big smile. Yeah. Good. We fight, as he points out. He says, he just points out at the big field. He says, "We keep Lindo safe till you get here. It's yours now. Treat him good," as he pats Lindo on the shoulder, which noticeably causes him to stagger.
Okay, big guy. Okay.
Much appreciated. Much
We understand, Zugtug. Thank you.
Son kill for you. You kill for son. Son be with you. He places a hand over Lindo's chest, literally over the entirety of Lindo's chest, and kind of this pulsing light that rolls over Lindo's shoulders, and you note that his armor starts to actually coalesce over him, and he's wearing the armor of the Dawn Guard, clean and unblemished. And Zugtug just nods. Sun there for you. We there for you.
I guess it is time to fight, eh?
It's time to fight, Lindo.
Okay. And Lindo slowly stand up. Takes a big sigh and adjusts his shoulders.
Off to the side where you guys are standing watching this, a couple figures actually brush by you. A young boy and more of a teenage boy. A young man start to make their way over, and they walk up to the Lindo, who's now standing there in the Dawn Guard armor, and the young boy just kind of reaches up a hand to Lindo.
I hesitantly reach back down.
And he takes your hand, and he smiles and nods. He looks back at you guys and gives a beaming smile, a child actually happy. And for a moment, there's just this bright flash, and he's gone. And then the young man comes up, kind of kicks his heels against the dirt and looks up at you and looks really ashamed, but kind of reaches out a hand as well.
Here's a fist bump. Let's fist bump. Let's do this.
Just bumps your fist, and as it does so, there's that bright flash again. And you're left standing there with Lindo, again, resplendent in the Dawn Guard armor, and from behind him, large form looms up, puts a hand on Lindo's shoulder. Sun always shine, Lindo. Even if can't see, sun shine. And there's this bright flash as the form dissipates, and Lindo is now wearing this kind of bright, brilliant cloak that's draped over his shoulders and down to the back of his knees.
I promised myself I wanted to cry. But I'm going to cry. You just don't look at me.
Oh, right.
It's fine. Okay. I'll get wrinkles.
You know now that the sound of combat has echoed away, and looking out over the barren fields, you note little sprouts starting to peek out through the soil. The storm clouds start to break open, and the area around you is now well lit, brilliantly bright in the sunlight, as Lindo is standing there clean and resplendent, fully healed with a smile on his face.
This not doesn't look so bad, eh?
It does not.
No.
It fits you.
I think so.
Right, so now that we've got Lindo back to...
And everything goes black. And as you open your eyes, you look around, and you're in the room in the inn. You're sitting there. There's a form in the center of the room, nothing but a small glint of light flashing forth from the chest as it sits there, as the power of the spell has drained away. And you look around, and on the bed, sitting up and stretching.
Oh my god. I think I have been literally lying here forever.
You have
A week.
well, about
A week is definitely forever. Well, I got my beauty sleep. How do I look?
Same as always.
You've got bedhead.
What?
And as you gather yourselves, as you welcome back your briefly lost friend and your other friend, you gather your things as we move on to our next episode. So thank you, dear Digidicers, for joining us for another episode of Hazardous Endeavors. And until next time,
Game on, Internets!